This is Dylan.
Hey everybody, this is Maha.
We're the hosts of That Wasn't Too Hard, where we talk about process improvement, organizational culture, and all sorts of other things. Today, we'll be talking about cargo cults. Some of you know these, and probably many of you don't. We'll be explaining them. May not seem like a good fit for a podcast about process and how to make your life better, but believe me, they're going to be great. Maha is going to lead us on a journey. Are you ready, Maha?
I'm not, but everyone else who's on a journey is usually never ready. So I would say yes.
Well, that's great. Maha, tell us the story of Jens.
Jens was an explorer who saw something in Papua New Guinea that was amazing to them. They discovered a tribe, actually a few tribes, which assumed that a lot of the ships that were docking at their islands came from their ancestors, and that those ships had goods, had weapons, had infinite amounts of food that could eventually help them come out of poverty and help them actually achieve a lot of good things in life. So in the vision of that happening, whenever there was something close to a ship arriving, they would celebrate then by building these giant huts prior to ships arriving that they would fill with things that would relic or things that would mimic what they were expecting when it comes to either food, weapons, etc. And they would continuously evolve their whole lives around building these huts in anticipation of something that they hope will come. And when it came, when it came, it wasn't really necessarily, but they were anticipating, and clearly some of them would have celebrated a little bit too soon, as it's in human nature, and those people would have either sacrificed a lot of their crops and a lot of their foods, and ended up starving to death even. So in the scheme of it all, they anticipated something. They followed the right sort of steps to accept it into their lives, or that to make it successful. Yeah. And then it just didn't happen. And I think that's a great example because it shows the extent to which we could go to just wanting to realize something, wanting to make sure that it's right.
Yeah, because they were doing everything right as they saw it.
Exactly.
As like here was a new thing that was desirable, and they were making it theirs, and they're like, and maybe they thought the huts were necessary for the
reception of the goods, actually.
Right, there you go. But I hate to think what would happen if like the ship was heading somewhere else. Maybe that must be a disappointing time. I wonder what they did then.
Well, some of them did die, like I said, and
sure.
a lot of them just did not understand why the ships were being diverted, and they probably assumed in this case that they might have done something wrong, and they would just keep repeating the same thing.
Right.
Preparing more huts, maybe doing more for their ancestors who were sending this food. And that way they would be able to eventually receive this infinite amount of everything that they were waiting for.
They were doubling down potentially.
Yes, actually.
On their maybe not working approach.
Interestingly enough, originated from the same region where during the World War, I just don't remember which one. You got to excuse me for that one. Did you just say one? Yes, I think it's one.
Two.
Damn it! Yes, they had things that fly. Yes. They had things that fly. That's why. But yes, the things that would fly would land on these islands, and they usually would have food such as kind of meats and spam and stuff like that, and they would bring it into the island, obviously to not only in this case feed their soldiers, but also to feed everyone else. And when World War II was done, these planes or these things were no more. So the people wanted to make sure that those things have everything that they need to come back, i.e.,
Yeah.
landing strips. They created a radio tower actually out of, I think, bamboo shoots or some sort of wood as well. They even had people pretend to actually have those headphones and kind of call in. So they did the whole process that they were seeing. They were very
Mhm.
observant, so they really followed everything to the T to make
Mhm.
sure that they were getting those planes to land and eventually
Mm.
give them their food. And it just never happened.
Yeah.
But they never
So they
stopped
were,
doing it.
uh-huh. So they were following, like, they did the procedure perfectly,
Mhm.
but they didn't get the advertised outcome.
Yes.
Um, and and it just strikes me that, like, this is, as we began, this is something that we do every day.
Mhm.
And we some people use that glib phrase, insanity is doing
Repeating
the
the same
same
thing.
thing every time and expecting a different outcome. This is kind of the opposite, where you're doing what worked before, but it's not working anymore, and you don't know why. Um,
And instead of questioning why, or instead of finding the root cause,
mhm,
you just do it again. Insanity.
right. Yeah. Yeah. How many of us just chant the same magical words or something, in our regular lives, to where the original meaning is lost. I know regulatory is often that way, or legal, where the rules of civil procedure are very esoteric, and the particular phrasing you use is lost to time, but we
Mhm.
still have to do it this way. Um,
Language is pretty much the same too.
sure.
When you
Yeah.
start questioning some things of why is it said like that, it takes some
Mhm.
time a foreigner to say, well, why is your language structured like that, or why do you actually have things that you
Mhm.
just don't use anymore, and then you just
Right.
saying because it's how it's been done forever.
Right. Or in English's case, because it's three other languages in a trench coat.
Pretty much, actually.
Um,
Pretty much.
so I'm guessing our listeners probably are starting to think of some examples in their lives of cargo cults that they probably are frustrated with. What are some, just in case they're not, what are some uh, modern cargo cults that people run into today?
I would say, I mean, if we want to talk about one of our best friends that has been a guest in the show for via us actually, which is Richard Feynman, I would
Mhm.
say that he kind of popularized it back in the 1960s in 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 the context of science, where
Mm.
he called it cargo cult science, where you follow the
Ah.
same thing, you have to do the same rigor, but then when you don't get the same result, you just repeat it again and again and again in hopes of getting that same result, versus you actually
Ah.
questioning, okay,
Mhm.
why am I not getting the results? Why should I change something? Is there anything that I need to explore more of?
Mhm.
Um,
Right. So you're saying science as a practice,
mhm.
as a method of verification and study and root cause analysis for just the physical world.
Even that's guilty.
Yeah, yeah, that is often, like, you're saying scientists often don't follow the true discovery. They're just going through the motions that they've seen other scientists do, and not maybe getting the right answers, or not getting the results that science as a discipline promises.
Sometimes, yes. And as you can imagine, sometimes just because, let's say, someone has already done or conducted a study,
Mhm.
and let's say that that was the result of it. If you wanted to base a new study on that study instead of redoing the study to ensure that under similar circumstances you're getting the same result, there is almost this non-questioning of the original result, and
Right.
just basing your whole thesis and basing your whole everything. And this is not just for the social sciences, which we talked about, but even in physics and other disciplines as well,
Sure.
where you just follow in the result and that's it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. Some science friends probably would argue with us. Science friends, please argue with us if you're listening. But it does remind me, like there was the case of a recently disgraced food science celebrity who did some P sniping. And for those not familiar, P is a statistical significance measure where
A lot of
if
people
you
snag for
don't,
tea.
yeah, how do I explain this in 8 words or less? But there's a great XKCD about it, and like Skittles or something, we'll post it in the description. But it's a measure of how likely it is that the significance you found in your study is random.
Mhm.
And so usually scientists choose 1 in 20 to be like, if they do 20 studies, they expect 1 in 20 of them, they establish their confidence to be 1 in 20 studies would be randomly significant when it's not really. And that's why replication is important, because if you do the same study again, you might get a different answer. And if you do, well, then maybe your original study or maybe the new study was one of those 1 in 20 that wasn't really significant. You just got lucky that time. And but if you don't understand that idea of statistics and P sniping, and you will end up doing what this guy did. Was he just had a whole bunch of data and he said, let's look for correlations. And he found all sorts of interesting things, because in any data set, you're going to find like what all
Correlation doesn't equal
European,
causation, right? But
right, right,
we preach that, but we still don't follow it, right? Oh,
right.
may I tell me about
Tell
him?
me a good example.
Oh, yeah. So where there was a study, there was a great study that was about how there was a correlation of how genes were bad for your knees, pairs of genes.
Neat. Okay.
So the study goes, we've conducted a study on people who wear regular pants, as in like suits, and people who wear jeans. People who wear jeans apparently had worse knees than people who wear suits. Do you want to know why? That was the
Because they're
correlation.
poor.
Yeah, actually that was right, because they're usually,
Oh no.
yeah. Well, so the original study actually made a correlation between genes and bad knees. This is
Yeah.
true. It was published. It was even backed. Everyone was like, and it took someone to say, "Hey, have you ever considered that maybe blue jeans are associated with blue collar? Hence, they had to do more knee work." And then someone who was sitting in the office, and they're like, "Oh dear, oh my!" And that reminds me of that correlation story that you have, because yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There are a lot of different causes, and that's a great one too. And I think Feynman's probably right that, especially when you have a lot of conflating factors, like in social sciences or even biology, it gets harder and harder to be sure about the effect that you're studying.
Mhm.
And that can be true in business as well. And it can be very difficult to find root causes and be pretty sure of them. And that's why you can't pick up a Six Sigma book and read it and understand it in 15 minutes. There's some rigor involved.
Mhm.
All right, Maha, that was a great example. Tell us another one. What else would people identify potentially as a cargo cult?
In all honesty, I think that one of the things that we've even discussed way before as well, this lesson is how we, well, anyways, so we talk about the social sciences a lot. we talk about science in this case too, with the scientific method and correlation and everything. Well, let's go back to our original victim of agile too.
Mm. Mhm.
Agility, I would say, is a cargo cult, and some companies even claim to teach you how to be agile, but they're just the cargo cult of agile. Of this is how you're
Mm.
supposed to do it. Here's the skeleton. Follow the skeleton. Do what the skeleton, kind of exists like the skeleton, and then you're fine. When the reality of
Mhm.
it is, there's this piece of it, if you want to call it rigor, or if you want to call it even um, anything else, that is just missing. And that's the
Yeah,
piece that actually makes it successful. That's why
right.
skeleton copy pasting things from one industry to the next as well is just a horrendous idea.
Yeah, sure. I could see that. And, one you make me think of is goal setting in
Mhm.
companies. A lot of companies really like this idea because it makes sense of what are the key goals of the CEO, and then their direct reports make their goals based on those goals, and then you cascade them down. Okay, lots of people do this.
Isn't
What
that
often ends
telephone
up
though?
happening, what's that?
That's like the game telephone.
Right. Well, but you can often, yeah, you're absolutely
Oh,
right. I've
sometimes it
seen
happens
this
like that.
done well in one organization. Um, but in a lot of organizations, I think it becomes ineffective because the executives have real vague goals like be the best or grow sales, or like they're not SMART goals in the acronym SMART. And then people are left like scratching their heads. Okay, how are we supposed to be involved in that? I work in facilities. I can't help sales growth. And so then they take their existing goals and they like word them up and tie them up to their executives goals, which doesn't help the, like, that's not why you cascade goals. You cascade goals to be agile in a business. And if your goals are not changing as the executives do, then you're just cargo culting goal cascading.
Yep.
What do you think of that, Maha? You're
Uh,
closer to that world than I am.
well, I would say that that's pretty much how it is in all honesty too. And there are
Mm.
other examples that I can talk about when it comes to cargo culting within the organizational excellence and HR field too, which is about star teams. Have you ever heard of like the A teams or like star teams, where you're supposed to select the best of the best? They're all supposed to be
Ah.
strategic. They're all supposed to be from MBA backgrounds, etc. And
Mhm.
that's supposed to solve everything. Um, the other one that is going to be highly debatable, and I actually
Mhm.
welcome our communities to welcome our listeners to actually debate me on this one. Another Cogro cult is, interestingly enough, diversity and inclusion,
Mm.
where
Gauntlet
we
thrown.
yes. So burn me to the stake. I don't care. But one of them is about diversity and inclusion, where, oh, we need to
Okay.
hire for diversity. They hire for diversity, it doesn't work. They continue to hire for diversity when it doesn't work, while not understanding that the root cause might be them and their culture. Um,
Yeah.
a great example of that would be companies such as Goldman Sachs that were in the fire a while ago, when they preached to the choir when it comes to diversity and inclusion, hired a lot of people, but then did not change their core culture to actually anticipate it, to actually allow for people with diverse backgrounds and diverse everything to contribute to their culture, and hence just fell on deaf ears. And then, oh no, what, we're not doing anything wrong. We're doing everything right. What is happening? And people just don't understand it. So this is
Yeah.
DEI is one of those fields where there has been a lot of cargo culting, and
Mm.
it's not really helping a lot of people. There are a lot of people who burn out even in those industries, because you end up hiring someone who's usually of color, or someone who's diverse in themselves to run your DEI. You do not give them the right amount of power or the right amount of autonomy to be able to conduct
Mhm.
conduct and act on the right answers and the right results. And you're like, but we've done everything right. Why is this not
Yeah.
working? And then when they leave, they're like, oh yes, they left, but we need to just hire another person. That's not how it is.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you can debate me on that one.
Hmm. Well, as you're talking, I'm connecting that I think one of the reasons why DEI programs don't really meaningfully change diversity is because they're going for compliance, and fair
Sometimes
enough,
even.
there are regulatory concerns that give companies incentive to do DEI programs, but to put it a little more starkly, I think often the culture that you're talking about is one of top-down authoritarianism and do as I say, not as I do, or just like unhealthy organizational culture, or maybe like you have substantial sexual harassment issues. And then and that's the root cause.
And that's kind of the
And if
thing.
you remove that root cause, you're going to find smart, diverse people show up in your organization. But if you don't fix that root cause and you just follow the shape and you just like try to hire diverse people and
Yes.
they leave after 8 months,
And you just
you
continue
haven't got
hiring and you're like, build it and they will
right.
come kind of sort of mentality. It's like,
Ah,
let's give them what they want and they will come, i.e. let's show them our DEI manifestos. Let's show them people of color. Let's show them
sure.
things like that. Let's show them this diversity that we have and they will come. And then they come and obviously they leave. And then they just
Yeah.
never change and never fix their anything. So I do think it's a cargo cult in that perspective.
Yeah.
How,
I'm
how about
sold.
how about this? Let me give you another cargo cult that I just think is
Please.
ridiculous. Companies' purposes.
Okay.
So we all know about this whole mission and vision statements and everything else like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, companies are either sold on three things, i.e. AI, purpose,
Okay.
and agile. We've kind of discussed agile
Sure.
because a lot of people have been seeing agile as a cargo cult. But even if you want to even think of something like AI, we must make sure that our company fits this, or else we will fail. If we bring AI into the company will succeed. And then they end up hiring a lot of consultants, doing a lot of things when in reality they may not even needed AI to actually fix their organization. It might have been something else. I'm not going to dive too deep.
Data or social or we're a data-driven org.
What does that mean? No, it's fine. But really, what does that mean?
We gotta monetize that data.
A lot of it.
They looked at Amazon and they saw, here's a company with a whole bucket of data. They're succeeding. It must be because they have all this data.
It must be because they know how to use this. Yeah.
Right.
And if they don't, and I've seen organizations that don't have the data, by the way, and they go make up the data. It's like, we don't have the data. We haven't been collecting the data. We're going to start collecting the data. And then they collect it, start using it. Doesn't tell them anything. It's because they just didn't understand what was the purpose of that data. Their data strategy was just weak.
Oh, it's amazing.
Let me give you a better example. Maybe softer.
Give me more.
I'm sorry. My favorite article a while ago was actually on The Economist, and it was talking about Hellmann's. Do you know what Hellmann's is? The mayonnaise?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So let me tell you what Hellmann's CEO just came out in 2019 and talked about in Davos. He said that companies with purpose last, brands with purpose grow, people with purpose thrive. And especially those people who work in your company that would align their purpose and their own core values with your purpose.
Sure.
So in 2021, 2022, he came out with the way to save the company, because Unilever and Hellman, their stocks have been crashing, right? What do you think was the solution to all these stock problems and them not being able to retain employees?
Was it a mission statement?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Tell me.
It's not just a mission statement, Dylan. It's
it's more.
Yes, it's more.
So much more.
Now Hellman's has a purpose now.
Okay, tell me Hellman's purpose.
Its purpose is to save food waste. It's to prevent food waste.
Oh man.
and make your food yummier.
Yeah.
And by having this purpose, the company
Mhm.
is going to last, the
Yeah.
brand is going to grow, and the people are
Mhm.
going to stay because the people's values now align with yours.
Yeah. I mean, I know if I was a corporate tax accountant at Hellman's and I was considering another role at, I don't know,
KPMG or one of the big
Kraft.
fours. Yeah, there you go.
Right. But I remembered Hellman's deep purpose to make things yummier.
And food waste. Don't forget.
Right. And also
yes.
reduce food waste. Yes. That would be so meaningful to me and my kids' little league games and my knitting club and all my purposes aligning to that great purpose of making food yummier and also
Exactly.
food waste. Yes.
Exactly, because it's about sustainability and it's about making people happy. Don't forget about that. I mean,
It's fantastic.
Hellman's have saved so many people from starvation. Have you not noticed that?
Oh, yes, I know.
Yes, exactly.
Deep cruise. Mhm.
Anyways, that's why one of their biggest hit stakeholders.
Mhm. So you are going out on a limb and saying that potentially purpose-driven corporate executive pronouncements are sometimes a cargo cult?
I mean, pretty much. And this, in the case of Hellman's, it's like, if we have build it and they shall come, pretty much the same thing.
Right.
If we have a purpose, that purpose is going to help solve all of this, and these solutions are going to come. Well, the reality of it is, it had absolutely no effect on their shareholder price, which kept
Right.
falling basically, and it had absolutely no effect on employees wanting to stay. If anything, just like your friend or you who was a tax consultant,
Corporate tax accountant.
corporate tax accountant, you were probably left after you heard that. You're like, hell no, and just left.
Unless they paid me more. I don't know. Yeah, whatever the corporate tax account. If you listen to this show and you're a corporate tax accountant for Hellman's, we would love to talk to you.
Yes,
much deep respect. Like, clearly, purpose has value. Like, a company's or organization's purpose has value, especially in nonprofits. People take substantial pay cuts because they're invested in a purpose, or like Doctors Without Borders or Amnesty International. People devote their lives to these causes.
Exactly.
And even at companies, some companies have purposes. When I worked at a med device company, we made like little roto-rooters for people's gummed up leg arteries. And on the quarterly call there for a while, the quarterly employee call, they had a video of some surgeon demoing this stuff. And you could see like some guy's leg getting roto-rootered. And that was kind of neat. Like, I didn't work on the product side, but it was so cool to see the end state of like what me and all my coworkers produced for maybe someone was going to take another 10 years to get their leg chopped off because it got like, all gummed up. And that was a neat purpose.
I'm going to give you a counter offer. So if you were on the same call and you worked at Hellman's and they showed you a video of a mother saving her leftover turkey and using mayonnaise to feed.
It would. I would go
the kids
straight on YouTube. I don't know. NDA. Like I think
a purpose. Not all companies need that purpose. What's the purpose of oil companies? We need them. What's the purpose of banks?
Sometimes your purpose is just stakeholder value, and that's all there is to it.
Sometimes your purpose is to be able to deliver something, not just stakeholder value, but deliver a final product, or be able to do something safely, or in the case of oil and gas, and that's it. Dylan, what's the average tenure of an employee, do you think, right now is, especially after the big resignation and everything else?
Depends on the industry. Within tech, probably 3 to 4 years. I know call center workers are something like 6 months. Yep. They have a rough time of it, but I don't know.
What's their purpose?
Probably more.
What's their purpose?
I don't know, not get fired, feed their family,
That
probably.
yes, but that's their purpose. That's their own kind of set of values and their own set of purpose.
Mhm.
But sometimes some people don't get hired because they just don't align with the purpose of that call center. When the reality of it is, you're just a call center. I
Right.
would argue it's the same thing even at places like
Mhm.
McDonald's. You know what? There's
Right.
the corporate McDonald's. There's probably a purpose there, and things are done in a certain way. But when you're
Yeah.
just flipping burgers at McDonald's, you are not aligning with the purpose. Your purpose is then to line your
Mhm.
pockets, if anything else like that, with a good salary, not burn yourself, not burn the food, and be able to deliver on your project. And that's
Right.
it.
Right. Um, this is a great example. All right, give us another example.
I'm not going to give you another example, but I would refer you to a study that I've read that, interesting enough, was actually quoted in The Economist as well. I don't have full access to it. If you work at Bain and Co., please give me access. But Bain and Co. actually did a study that showed you that there are people with different purposes. There are at least 6 types of employees, 6 types of purposes, and you just do not need that
Mm,
idea of purpose to drive your cult. And I think what they've done really well by giving out that study is break the cult down
mhm,
and
mhm.
stop it from working. So I
Yeah.
think that's something
Right.
that I want to refer to before we move into the next one, actually, Dylan, which is
Mm,
how do we break free from these cults? Do we always need a Bain and Co to help us break through? Do we always need a
yeah.
fit? Do we always need a Feynman? Do we always need something else? How do we break free from these cults? I mean, it's a cult. You don't want to run away and risk your life,
Hmm.
but
I don't know.
sometimes you
You
do.
tell me, Maha. How do you break a cargo cult? I mean, maybe
Mm.
the first question is, how do you not get sucked into a cargo cult?
That's actually an even better question, I think. Let's maybe start with the chicken before the egg, or both. Why not at the same
Hmm.
time, simultaneously? It's a parallel universes.
How would you do that?
Uh, I think this is a tricky one, right? We have these set of tools that we talked about when it comes to root cause analyses and everything else that we've just even discussed could be skeletons to give you results. Um,
Hmm.
but then I would say that being able to question and being able to have the integrity to put everything on the table and not just be narrow visioned in the way that the scientist that you told me about, for example, was, where let's just have a bunch of things. If they correlate, then they're going to be that. Just be able to question way beyond it. Root cause analyses is, again, we discussed a lot of tools with that, and they help sometimes take you out of that narrow hole or narrow vision.
Hmm.
Otherwise, to be honest, I'm going to give the question back to you because I really don't know. I'm someone who has always been a rebel in her own
Hmm.
self. There are studies that show you that rebellion in organizations is what kind of gets the cult out of its own head,
Hmm.
but I really wouldn't know. Do you have any examples
Yeah.
yourself, Dylan?
I think there are two that I've found helpful. Um, One is just asking why. Those 5 whys.
Yeah.
We do this. Okay, why? 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 And it gets annoying, but like you can switch it up over the course of several meetings. Um, the other, and what you're trying to drive to with those questions is, what value does this provide? How does this, whatever we're examining, this cult, this procedure, this process, this capability, what's it actually doing for any of us or for our organization that's beneficial? And usually you start asking those because you think there's some opportunities to provide more value with less time.
Okay.
And the other, but what I've noticed is that it's very difficult for those conversations to get very far
Yes.
if you don't agree on priorities as a team. Like, because at the end, you're trying to say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And then at the end, you're saying, because it helps us deliver one of our priorities as a team.
Yes.
And if you can't say it, you shouldn't be doing it. But if your team priorities, maybe like executive strategy goals, are unclear or nebulous or whatever, it's going to be very difficult for you to challenge a cargo cult, because there's no firmament, there's no concrete foundation for you to drive down to with whys.
We could also say that borrowing some ideas from project change, or from change management in general, on how change agents drive change and kind of push out of it too, right? You're not going to be able to do it on your own. Just being there and saying no is not always the most beneficial thing. And just being able to find allies, to find maybe even an ally in your leadership team as well, that could preach to the choir with you. That's always beneficial, because you need voices of reason to come together and then just be able to break that cult up.
Sure. Yeah. Listeners, clearly we do not have all the answers on this. We would love your thoughts on how to address cargo cults that you see in your daily life. There are so many other cargo cults. We did not talk about TPS reports, everybody's favorite example.
No. Please tell me about the TPS reports. I mean, we touched on them, so at least. Well, I'm going to mention them in meme form. How about that?
Yep, we'll do a call out, and you can look. One moment.
Good.
We also didn't talk about the Drucker model and how HR works. If you'd like to hear about these, we can talk for hours about cargo cults in our lives. Please let us know. And one moment.
Okay.
I'm going to restart that. Please let us know what you'd like to see, and we will engage whatever topics you'd like to hear about. Thanks everybody for joining us on this exhilarating discussion of cargo cults and how they connect back to that root cause analysis that we've discussed before. Thanks to Maha for giving us some great examples, both in the small scale and the big scale, this history and the daily life. If you'd like to know more, please see our show notes. There will be some links there. If you like what you've heard, create a good habit, not a cargo cult today. Subscribe. Thanks for listening.
We might need a cult. We might need a. Let's turn them into a cargo cult, so they just respond to us without. No, come on.
It's a good habit. It ties directly to value.
Yes.
In daily life, and we're going to remind you every chance we get. Thanks for listening. We hope to see you again on our next episode. And until next time, see, that wasn't too hard.
Hey, we synced. It worked. Yay. Thank you, Dylan. Take care.
Yep. All right.